You know how we say, we are fine, but the sink is full, the fridge is a chaos, and the dinner, well, it's a mystery until the last minute. Listeners, today I want to slow that down because the kitchen is not just where we chop vegetables or reheat leftovers. It is where our stress, our values, and our sense of enoughness quietly show up every single day. Yeah. Now, if you open your fridge right now, what story does it tell? Are there any forgotten leftovers, or maybe takeout boxes, or carefully prepped meals in containers? Is the table a place where people gather, or just a horizontal surface that catches meal and clutter? Or just with your phones and your laptops and tablets lying down? Listeners, my guest today has a very bold claim that the kitchen can be where global change begins. After 3 decades in the restaurant world, she created My Mindful Kitchen and the 3 ingredient kitchen to help us turn daily food habits into acts of purpose. Her MMK method guides people from change seeker to mindful foodie change maker. She helps families reduce waste, save money, and rediscover joy around the table without asking for perfection. So, listeners, gear up for it because we are going to explore a big question today on the Mindful Living podcast. If the kitchen is a mirror, what is it reflecting back about how we are really doing? Not in a shame way, but in a curious, honest, very human way. So, if you can, take a breath. Now, picture your kitchen as it actually is, not as you wish it looked on social media with all that aesthetics and, beautiful, colorful containers and all. But that exactly is where we are starting from. And listeners, to help us with that, my guest, please welcome Janet Irizarry. So, Janet, welcome to the Mindful Living, and it's really, really an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me. I love your introduction. You touched on so many wonderful points.
And I feel it, because okay, Jared, it's like a confession for me because initially I never thought, not in fact even kitchen, but your house, your home is not just the physical place that you stay in, or you go back after your work or after your studies, or whatever it is, but the way you keep it is kind of an if it is a reflection of your inner self. And especially when it comes to kitchen or food, um it's not only just the eating part or the nutrition part, the physical aspect, but there is a deep down a spiritual, a cultural, and an emotional part also attached. And I know for the fact that cooking or making your favorite dish, eating it warm, it is such a beauty in it itself. And it's also a huge blessing that, we live to have. So it's very, very, it's such an important part of especially the mindful living. And thank you so much for, bringing this topic up and this conversation. So yeah, let's begin.
Glad to be here. And it's with the world the way it is today and everyone being so rushed, we tend to forget the value of our kitchen and what it can offer us, as you said, not just physically, what we eat and, how healthy we are, but emotionally too. The 3 ingredients for the 3-ingredient kitchen are mindfulness, belonging, and purpose, which,
Mhm.
is what I love about those ingredients? They never go bad, they're free, and, they bring so much flavor to the table. How about that?
Absolutely, no doubt. 1000% agree with it. And um, I mean, mindfulness, I mean, I can actually speak about it because this is something that I also kind of sometimes really tend to argue with a lot of people. Or whenever, we are cooking or we are eating, sometimes we tend to ignore the love, that fun in cooking, prepping or maybe cutting the vegetables, cleaning and setting up everything, putting all those, ingredients, spices or whatever it is, tasting it. And then while eating also, like normally right now what we're doing is, okay, we have got half an hour of break. Let's just somehow eat everything and get back to whatever we are doing. I mean, like, we are forgetting that, okay, I have eaten this in the breakfast or I've eaten this in the lunch. We're not even enjoying while we're eating. So I think that is such an important way of, bringing mindfulness. And of course, it is free, and still, it's kind of depleting from our lives.
Yeah, and I think in the world of abundance that most of us live in, we forget to have the respect for the food that we're eating. And, by just simply appreciating the journey from the farm to your table is enough to start, a different kind of mindset. There's so many from the time something, starts on the farm to the time it gets to the supermarket to your kitchen, there's so many both natural and human resources that have been put into it. And when you just take a moment to think about that, you can't help but have a different appreciation for your kitchen. And, you know, as you know, that it's not just about nourishing our bodies, it's nurturing our soul.
Yeah.
And that by taking the time, you said chop, 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 So let's not chop, chop, chop. Let's just chop, chop, chop. And it's amazing how that can just change the energy in the room.
It, it absolutely, no doubt, no doubt. I really enjoy that. So, Janet, okay, let's first, begin with this. Okay, when you walk into someone's kitchen, um, what are the first three things you notice that tell you how they are really doing, not just how clean their house is? I mean, that is something else, but how do you make a sense of it? How they are doing?
Well, once again, I think there's an energy that you feel when you go into someone's kitchen. And, I was in the restaurant business for years and I used the term reading the room. You can walk into a room and just somehow kind of feel what's going on. And the fact is that, once again, this is not about perfection.
Hmm.
Simply being organized is actually such a stress reliever. Like if I told you, the first thing to do is make sure your refrigerator, your pantry are organized. And most people say, oh, I'm like, takes so much time. Well,
Mhm.
how much time do you spend thinking about it and how it stresses you? So to take a few moments
Mhm.
to organize, and it's just amazing how that can lighten the feel of your kitchen. So,
Exactly.
and once again, it's not by, if you look at my kitchen right now, I'm looking at it right now. Is it clean? Deep down, it's clean. um, and it's lived in. I, had breakfast this morning. My husband had breakfast this morning. There's a couple dishes in the sink, and there's, in my dish drain, there's dishes, and I haven't, emptied the coffee maker. Little things, but basically, if I was going to go cook something in it right now, I know where everything is. And knowing where things are and what you have available is so important once again. And by being organized, people think, oh my goodness, that takes so much time. But you got to change the mindset and turn it around because it saves you so much time and it also saves you money. Uh,
Mm.
that's, rising food costs right now are insane. So, taking the stress out of going to the grocery store and having to worry about how much everything costs, if you know what you have and you're not buying extra, you're not throwing things out, that actually should make you really feel good.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think
Absolutely.
anyone really likes to waste.
No, 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 absolutely. There have been, like, I really find interest in watching stuff around it. For example, how creative you can be with, let's say, the vegetable peels, or how you can make a beautiful, a chicken stock using the bones. One day I was watching this video on, let's say, if you have leftover turkey bones, or then the carcass, let's say, how we can make a beautiful chicken stock for a fur. So it's like, these creative stuff which you can add, which actually can save you a lot of money, also reduce wastage, and it can also, I think, bring, make you feel kind, you have had a win today. So
You know, I s I use some analogies of how it feels when you can, like, keep your broccoli fresh or use, for 3 weeks, or make something out of leftovers in the refrigerator. It's like that great feeling that you have when you go to the store to buy an outfit for some occasion and you find the perfect thing that's on sale that's half of what you expected to pay for it. And that's such a accomplishment. That's kind of the same way you feel when you have those kind of wins that we just talked about. And
Mhm.
I was listening to someone talk on, of course, here we're celebrating Thanksgiving. We just celebrated it and we're going into, of course, Christmas and all. And we're talking about not wasting food. And how to use leftovers, but I heard someone talk about, and I really liked the way they said this, was that your leftovers are actually a head start to your next meal. You don't have to start from scratch. So knowing that you have that and you don't have to, whether it's the mashed potatoes that you can make into something different or the vegetables, they're already prepped and done and just ready to go. And you can totally recreate depending on what you're in the mood for that night. So that once again, major mindfulness, having the awareness, I think, is key. That um, the kitchen and using up leftovers and knowing what you have in the kitchen is a way to make your kitchen not such a stressful place, but more of a place that you can show appreciation, slow down, and have gratitude.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because I love that, because we are not talking about how we have to keep our kitchen or our home spotlessly clean for others to appreciate, or maybe put up, on any social media, but for at least ourselves. Because you mentioned about energy, I think that is something, we so much, we feel drawn to, like, half finished things, or maybe a feeling of that I'm barely keeping up. So it really makes, this feel less like a more more model scorecard, and more like a dashboard. Like, there's data, and it's not a proof that we are failing, but I think it gives that, impetus, or that motivation, that the first step today is not like to panic clean, but to look around and ask, like, what is the space trying to tell me about my own life right now?
How do I feel about it? Like, when I walk into that space, if it drains me, it's just like you're standing around a negative person. If they drain you, get away. If your kitchen is draining you, then do something about it. And my suggestion is one small thing. Do one small thing every day or every week that puts you in the direction that makes you feel more positive. It kind of like anchors the day in a positive way instead of waking up to negative news. That could be by using, as we just talked about, leftovers, what's already in your refrigerator. sitting down together, making a plan to sit down together and have dinner as a family, or inviting your kids into the kitchen one day to help you cook, or um, teach a child to do something in the kitchen that actually helps them learn skills, or begins conversations that you can talk about values, because that is part of what my mindful kitchen is all about. And the three ingredients, it's about, it's a perfect place as a classroom for kids. Now, I don't think there's one value you can't teach your kid um, in the kitchen, and it starts conversations that could be anything from things that we don't want to talk about, the elephants in the room, climate change, food insecurity, politics, but it can be done in a way that just is not a lecture. It's a conversation. Where did this food come from, and why should we eat all of this before we buy new? What's the benefits of us using everything in our refrigerator? How much do you think this costs? How much did this tomato travel to get to your doorstep? And just putting all those little pieces together in ways that don't feel um, scary, or as a lecture to teach kids values. It's just chat and talk and conversation, and having the quality time you want with your kids away from their devices. And I mean, I tell people to use the devices in the kitchen sometimes to get creative, and look in the refrigerator and see what you have, and let's see what we can make out of those. If we don't have any ideas, let's put them into um you know Google those ingredients and see what might come up.
Yep, absolutely. Now we have AI as well.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's amazing. Those are just starting points. It's not starting with a blank piece of paper, but giving an idea. And kids, they, oh my God, get so excited. It's almost like gamifying it.
Mm. And moving on to, the belongingness here, Janet. Like, a lot of people say that they do care about health, family, and the planet. They look at their kitchen and see takeout bags and food waste. Um, from your perspective, what does that gap between values and habits usually reveal?
Well, I think it it's we learn from how our parents or the outside world models things. And I think, at least here where I live in the United States, and people my age and people of my, income level or whatever, we haven't modeled so good. We live in a world of abundance, and people go into stores and, perfectly stocked shelves. And if you go into someone's home, they probably have enough food to eat for I don't know how long. And, if you don't want, not in the mood for something, there's always something else you could buy. And I think that it's really important to sit back and reevaluate that, and um, take, and that's once again bringing the mindfulness into the kitchen and getting off of autopilot, and start really using food as a way and as a tool to realize what's going on in the world around you also, and to be less um, selfish, I guess.
Mm, yeah, makes sense, Janet.
Yeah, and, once again, the 3 ingredients are mindfulness, and that's just it's simple. It's noticing what you already have, reducing your autopilot choices, belonging, it's sitting down together, sharing meals, um, building a family culture, and purpose, it's making choices that align with your values. So, I believe everyone is brought into this world with these innate values that are good. But because we're so busy, and right now with, as you brought out, social media and picture perfect homes and meals, we move away from them. And the kitchen is the perfect place to get back to your values and, you know, care more about people, be more grateful, save money, waste less, care about the planet. You know, it's a beautiful thing. And um, I'll tell you a quick story that I didn't realize it actually. I my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we had dinner at home most nights. She loved the kitchen, and when I had my kids, you would think I would bring up my kids the same way. But I got into the restaurant business and was, worked a lot. And when um, it was just a totally different feeling. And I didn't even realize it that what I had not given my kids until I read my son's essay he wrote to get into college, which actually
Mm.
talked about how his mom owned 3 restaurants and his father was in the food business, and yet there was never any food on the table or food in the house or dinner on the table. And I was like, "Oh my goodness." And that's when I started realizing what I had not given my kids and what my mom had. And she had done that unintentionally, but all those things I mentioned to you about what the kitchen can teach and the values and the connection and the conversation, I had, without even realizing, kind of not given to my kids. And that's when I said, wait, there's something much more to the kitchen than just mealtime and the food we eat.
Absolutely. That's a very, I mean, thank you for sharing that story, Jan, because sometimes even, children, kids can actually teach us adults a lot.
Well, exactly. Oh my goodness. It's a two-way street. And that's so great to be able to be in the kitchen with your kids and hear their perspective too. And that's what they want too. They want to connect.
Now, before we wrap up, Janet, you know, like, do you have like a practical example of, if because now we are talking about, maybe the simplest habits or ways, through which we can actually um, cultivate mindfulness, belonging, and also find purpose in there. Like any practical example of how a family can rebalance kitchen roles without starting a war, or maybe, a couple, both of them are working, uh, you know, especially in homes, where maybe one person or both of them, they have been carrying the entire load for years and years. Any simple way?
I think it's a mindset shift to begin with. And once again, it's little things. Uh, I just talked to a mother the other day who says that she doesn't have her kids come into the kitchen because she remembers her mom was like, that was a place she didn't want her kids to be. So, um, and you think you can get more done. Sometimes it's a mindset. Sometimes you think you can get more done without your children. But the bottom line is you're only hurting yourself because it also teaches responsibility. So having the children come into the kitchen and it could be in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be cooking. It could be helping cleaning up, putting away groceries, and not make it a chore, make it a fun time together. Um, I think is really goes to the whole we're so used to being rushed and we just have to think about food differently. I like to say, eat like it matters. And that means to so many different things. Eat like it matters so that, um, you know, it, so everyone, like everyday food stresses can
Mhm.
be relieved. And it can be whether it's a stress related to food because of prices, whether it's stress related to food because you're wasting it, whether it's a stress related to food because you um, feel like you have to sacrifice quality or guilt about waste or always eating on the run or feeling unorganized, make one small mindset shift or do one small thing. I hate to say we are habitual. And if you can breaking a habit stinks. No one wants to break a habit. But you can't think about it. It means just to make small changes that things start to happen just naturally.
Absolutely. No, uh, I mean, personally, I 100% agree with you. I, I mean, I absolutely hate to kind of have food on the run. I always want to sit comfortably, take some time, eat it slowly, chew it, enjoy it, trying to understand how the taste is, what all is there. And many people would find it very, like you take so long to eat this food. And look, I've completed it within 5 or 10 minutes. Then I also, like, my inner self wonders how the hell are you able to complete it within 10 minutes. And I just any kind of distraction. Like, I want to eat my food very properly.
You know, one of the things I do is I teach at the Culinary Institute of America, which is a very prestigious culinary school. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's they have campuses in different areas of the United States and around the world. And I get the students when they're first coming in, and I don't teach cooking, I teach hospitality, but I always talk to them about why they are at the school. And almost every time it is
Mhm.
because they remember cooking with their mom or their grandma. They have food memories that have just enlightened them, have made them just love food in a way that, um, because they think of it as a connection
Mm.
and a memory. And, that's what it's all about is using the kitchen and food to make memories.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So, of course, Janet, if our listeners, not only the food lovers, but everyone, if they would like to further connect with you, explore more about your MMK method, and seek more wisdom on how they can, bring more mindfulness, more belonging, and purpose into their kitchen, their food, what would be the easiest way to connect?
There's two things that they could do is they could go to my website, which is mymindfulkitchen.com, and sign up for the newsletter because we have a great newsletter that goes out weekly that just it's tips, it's inspiration, it's a different way of looking at things. I like to say to keep you in a mindful foodie frame of mind. And then the other one is we're on Instagram at MMK Method. And once again, you'll find videos of me and I'll talk to you and we'll talk together and uh, just be inspired. And it's all about feeling good and positive.
Amazing. Listeners, as always, I'll have all the details so that you can reach out to Janet and explore more about how to actually cultivate mindfulness into your life through your kitchen, through food. And Janet, thank you so much for. I think this was such a beautiful, for me, I think for many of our listeners, a nostalgic conversation, um, and for the fact that our kitchen can reveal a lot, our stress levels or unspoken rules at home, our relationship with money, and even how hopeful we feel about the future of the planet as well. So, thank you so much.
Well, it's a pleasure speaking with you. It was a very fun conversation, and I really appreciate being able to talk about this and hope people go out and just do one small thing.
Absolutely. So, listeners, you do not need a designer pantry or um, endless free time to start living more mindfully in this space. Maybe just a small one shift, like a family check in about kitchen roles, or maybe a day dedicated to like a leftover ritual that cuts your food waste, or like choosing one meal a week that feels like a real pause. not just refueling. Because the kitchen can be a mirror, but it does not have to be a judge. So until then, this is your host Sana, and this has been the Mindful Living. And if today sparked something for you, go look at your kitchen with softer eyes and sharper curiosity. Thank you for listening, for caring, and for doing the quiet work no one sees.